Hello, this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts with another video in my Christmas in July series. If you haven't watched my last video, I used lots of elements from a magazine to make some shaker cards, but I'm left with many pieces still from that set that I want to use up this year. Some of these are these circles. I've cleaned them all up, I tidied them all up, so cut all the edges off the little bits that were around there. But I had an idea what I would like to do with these. This is slightly inspired by a card by NB Cards. I'm going to link to her card below, because she used some patterned paper or some backgrounds that she made herself to create some baubles on a card. And I thought this would be good to use up these circles. So I had a look at these. I was contemplating whether I want the trees on these baubles, but I think the problem with that is the trees make it really two-dimensional. I would like to give it a little bit of a three-dimensional look. I'll show you in a moment why. So I just had a look at these. This one I find doesn't go with these at all, so I will keep this one back for another card. Same with this one here. The colour scheme just doesn't go with this. This one I think would work, but I think I could use that one with a tree, so I'm putting this aside. I've also still got these pieces here that I could die cut from, because they are the same images. So if I find I need another piece of these, I could do that. And the other thing I have got on the side here, because I would like to show you techniques that you can do with your stash, is Christmas cards from last year. Well, if I say Christmas cards, I've cut the backs off with the greetings, but I kept some of these, and I want to show you in my series here in July what you can do with these. So I just picked the top one here because I think that because it's got many individual images, that I can at least cut 3 baubles out of this one here. I'll have a play in a moment with my circle dies and see how I can use this one here. But to start with this one, yeah, as I said, my thought was maybe to put the trees on here as a focal point, but I don't think that works well. What I want with these is I would like to give them some dimension, and my first idea was to put some ink on the edges. That works nicely. I might show you that with them as well. But I thought, just to get a sort of what's the word I would look at, a coherent style of these, although they are all a similar color with basically being some bluish gray, I think it would be good to do some heat embossing on all of these to just get an even look. So I'm going to have a look in my stash of either stamps or stencils to have a look what I would like to put on these. So the very first thing I found are these magazine stamps, and I think that the foliage stamps would be really nice. I've got another tree here, but I think because it won't have a background, a white background, it will blend in a little bit more nicely. So I'm definitely going for that. I'm just having second thoughts of whether I want the deer, but they are a bit too big. I could have a deer on one, so I might go for that one as well. So I have taken out my silver embossing powder, because this is all sort of a greyish blue. I think gold would pop too much. Obviously you can use other colours as well. And I've got my anti-static powder tool. This paper though is a little bit coated, so I'm not quite sure how it will react to the embossing powder, but I should be fine. It's just a little bit shiny, but not too bad. So, and I have used none of these stamps before, so I need to stamp these off a little bit. I've got here some scrap paper before I actually stamp on these. Just having a look where I would want the deer. I think the deer would go on this one. So I've got my Versamark embossing ink here. I'm starting with one of the trees then, I think, yeah. So as I said, I'm stamping it off here on the scrap paper, and have a look if I can see anything whether it stamps nicely. Oops, and don't do that. It's lucky there, so I'm just stamping it up again. And I think I just stamped that in the middle, but I don't like the little, like a little T-bar at the bottom. I don't want that because it's not supposed to be a Christmas tree. It's supposed to be a natural tree. So I'm just stamping that off. So, and then I've got my embossing powder here. Just putting a lid on that. Trying to open it without making too much noise. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering about this, I had a little DIY accident yesterday. A drill bit broke because I was holding a bracket in place. It just pierced my thumb and my finger there. So a bit off camera there. I'm just picking this up and I'm just dipping this into my embossing powder. Just taking a soft brush to get rid of any excess here on the edges. Give that a little tap as well. Yeah, I think that's fine. If I wanted to, I could put some embossing ink around the edge and get a good look there, but I don't want to do this on this project. So the next one, I think I will use this one here. I'll just show you one more and then, oh, let's do the deer. And then I will do the others quickly off camera. So this one's a bit more solid, so as I said, I need to prime it first by stamping it off. You can also rub it with your fingers, but I'll try to do it this way. I hope it'll be fine, because with a solid stamp like that, it will show if it's not properly stamped. So making sure his antlers are on the bauble. I'm not too worried about the feet. So I'm being mindful where I'm touching it. Oops, try not to slide it. It looks okay, I think. Yeah, that should be fine. So when I heat set these, I will try to heat set these from the back. So I will heat up my heat tool for about 30 seconds on the, I've got two heat settings, so on the second heat setting, and then I will heat set it from the back, moving it about, but trying not to scorch the paper in the back. If I blow one from the front, sometimes it blows away the powder, so I find if you haven't got very thick cardstock, it's better to do it from the back. So I quickly will do the others and I then will heat emboss these off camera. The heat embossing from the back worked really nicely. You just need a little bit of patience, but once it starts picking up and you can see the embossing powder melt, you just need to move it about. I've got a few bubbles here in the reindeer, but I don't mind that. By the way, little tip to hold pieces like that, I'm just using a peg and then I can keep my fingers away from it. That's fine, I think. And if you've got a bit of warping, once you've heat set it from the back, also come in from the front a little bit. You can also catch a few stray bits there and then melt it there, and then these aren't too bad. Definitely leave them to cool. Don't be tempted to put your finger into that until it's cooled down, but it's fine now. I'm happy with these. Obviously with embossing powder, although this is a fine one, you don't get the details you would get with a stamp, but I really just wanted a feature on all of these. So the other thing I need to do before I put my heat tool away is this. I would like to create a little bit here on top of the baubles to make them look like baubles. So I'm just using my embossing ink. I've just got a scrap piece here of cardstock and I'm just saturating that. I probably don't even need that much with the embossing ink. And then I'm going to emboss this piece as well, and then I can cut pieces from this that have got the same colour as the embossing. Again, I quickly do this off camera. I would now like to give these baubles a bit more of dimension. I mentioned that before. I would like to ink up the edges a little bit. I had a trial run with a scrap piece here, just basically because, as I said, there is a little bit of a coating on top. And this is why I'm using my VersaFine Clair. This is a more permanent ink, and if you have got a water-based ink, that just might smear. So I'm using the Warm Breeze. It is a bit of a warmer blue, but I think it will go nicely with all these pieces. So I've just got my ink dauber here, and I'm just inking that up lightly. I'm just dabbing this off on here, which would be fine. And all I'm doing is going around and just catching the edge a little bit. Obviously it won't stick where I've got the embossing powder. I'm not expecting it to. If you wanted to, you could do that before you do the embossing, but I didn't want to do that because obviously it would have to dry, and I didn't want the embossing powder to stick on there. So once I've gone round and used up all the ink, I can go in just a little bit more, increase the edge. Obviously I won't get the same look as proper ink blending, but this way I've got a bit of dimension, and again it will be a bit more coherent with the other pieces. I happen to have this bauble die here, so what I've done for the top of my baubles, I've just cut this little bit here at the top. I've cut it a little bit more, and then I've cut it off with scissors from my little piece of embossed paper. But you don't need this. You could just cut a square, you could cut a little circle, or even draw a circle. It all depends on how you want to finish your cards. I decided on this one, I don't want to draw the twine hanging down. I want to actually add some twine. But because I find most twine is really thick, I don't have any intermediate sort of thickness, I'm going to use this rayon metallic glamour thread. I bought this years ago when I thought I would do some machine embroidery. So this got a bit of a shine to it, so I thought this would be really nice. It's not very thick, but that I think will be easier to use in the card, and it will still show up. So what I will do now is I will attach these pieces here on the top just with my collal glue, and then I will feed a piece of the thread through that, so that I've got one piece coming down, one piece going up. I'm not attempting to actually tie a bow. If you've got a thicker thread or like a twine, you could tie a bow, but I'm not attempting that. And I will leave it a little bit longer, so that when I arrange my baubles on my card, I can then put the remainder on the back. So I will do this with all these pieces because it's very, very fiddly, and I need the glue to dry, and then I'll come back and show you how I arrange my baubles. I'm popping in with a little tip. When I try to glue these down, I thought I'd just hold it and do it like this. Both of these were wonky to start with, so I suggest you put your bauble down straight, put the glue in the middle where you know you need it, and then place your bit down. I only need it so that it covers that the holes are covered by the bauble itself. The rest will overhang anyway, and I can then press it down, or even pick it up and press it down. But this way I know at least it's straight. Wants to move a little bit, but it's straight this way. I have found some pattern paper that goes nicely with this colour scheme. It's from this paper pad, I've shown you that before. If you have like a nice ink smooshed background, that would be lovely as well, but I didn't want to create an extra one. And I've already had a little play with my layout. It's actually a bit crammed, I do admit that. I could take one of the baubles out if I wanted to and have a little play. I definitely want this one to be the focus. I'm just thinking whether I should take one out, and yeah, I think this would be a bit nicer actually. I might use that one instead. but no, I think I'll keep it like this. So I can always use that bauble on another card, or I could create a DL card, then I've got a bit more space, but I quite like it like this. This, by the way, this cardstock is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 because this is going to on a 5 by 7 card. I haven't planned where I would like to put my sentiment. I'm thinking about maybe adding a little strip here on the top, or if I move this one up now, this one down and this one up, I would have some space here at the bottom. I actually like this one a little bit better. I think I will do this. So what I will do once I have arranged these, I will just adhere this with my removable stick it, because I want to have these in place before I attach the thread at the back. So I'm starting, I don't want this too close to the top, so maybe have that one a little bit lower now that I've moved them. So don't want this to look too even really. So as I say, I'm just sticking these down, maybe that one a little bit lower, not too close to the edge, although you could do that, you could cut these off and add another one on another half on the other side. So then I'll put this one down. I'm being ambushed by my cat here under the table. I think he just wants to know what I'm doing. So have this one a little bit higher because I don't want this to look too even. Can you hear the scratching? That's him scratching a cardboard box and telling me, "Mummy, I want food." So, and then this one can sit here. So, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the thread and I'm going to wind this up a little bit, if that's the word. I'm going to twirl it a little bit because I don't want this to be two separate ones. Let me just wet my finger a little bit. And then when I've done that, I can attach it here on the back with some tape, which I need to get off from my drawer. So just hold that there in place, and then I can stick this down and also cut the excess off. So with this one here, oh, and it's jumped off. No worries about that, I can always rearrange that again. So you've seen me do that. So I'm going to twirl this one here, attach it in the back when I know what the length is, and when I've done all that, I'll come back and show you how I'm adhering them. Now that I've adhered the twine or the thread in the back, I can now stick these down. I want to glue on these flat, so I'm just going to use my ordinary magic glue. And this one here I would like to put on some foam pads. I'm being mindful just to put the foam pads here and not on top of that, I think, because otherwise it would interfere. And one thing you can do, if you're not happy with the way you've twisted the twine, you can still, maybe not undoing it, do it a little bit more. But I think the effect is nicer when you have twisted them. So I will just do this off camera again, then I will put this on my card base and I will find a little sentiment to put here at the bottom. I just wanted to show you something. This stamp hasn't stamped very nicely. I think I had some residue on there. This, by the way, is from the Paper Craft Society Advent Calendar from last year. But I want to show you how you can remedy that. I could, if I wanted to, stamp it again on a piece of cardstock and just put it on there. But I don't want to do that. So I've just got my VersaFine Clear ink out again, and I have got one of these silicone tools. They've got the pokey bit on one and silicone there. You can also use maybe like a toothpick or a brush. I use for bigger areas, I use a brush. Sorry, I'm going off camera there. So all I'm doing is, because I need a straight line, I'm going to dip this tool into my ink, and then I'm going to stamp right on this here, just basically filling this in with the colour I need. And yes, it still looks a bit wonky, but it's much more solid, and this will do me. I could tidy a little bit, but sometimes when I try to overdo it, I ruin it. So that's just a little tip from me. So here's my finished card. I think this looks really, really lovely. I think I made good use of these circles. I will create another card with that spare circle, a much smaller one I think, but similar in style. And I think for the other Christmas card I showed you, the bauble, I will turn that into the next video just to keep this one short. I think I should have shorter ones, but more frequently this month than making them too long. And that video will be on here really soon, probably the day after this one. See you then.